the purple hair. It's like straight Halloween vibes, which is really sick.
But the best for last.
The best for last. We've got cotton candy. It wouldn't be a circus without some cotton candy. So we've got the pink Carnival Kiss Pele here as well. So the Prism's looking really sick for this skin.
Yeah, no, I think they look great. I think
calm down and glorious.
An extra option for people who want a different color.
I knew it was coming.
We have the tech to be able to do this now, so it's neat for people that want different options there.
Absolutely.
I knew this fucker was going to be typing something. I knew he was going to be typing something.
Or anything crazy.
Cool.
Here we go. Now back to the laptop. We mentioned the prisms for
Inglorious pre-ordered the skin already.
Khan still has those prisms as well. Our cross-gen skin is Merlin.
Yeah. For those who don't remember, or either you have owned Voidworm Kukulkan since 2015 in Smite 1, or you do not own it.
Yes.
Because this was a limited skin that you could only get through the season ticket in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So a very old skin. A lot of people told us that they've been waiting for a way to be able to use this skin for a long time. You know, they've been looking at it and wanted it. So I think that like being able to bring back limited skins in Smite 2 as classic skins is kind of a neat thing for people that maybe missed out on it in Smite 1. As a reminder, classic skins you do not automatically get if you got it in Smite 1, but you can spend your legacy gem currency to get.
Correct.
And then cross-gen skins, if you owned it in Smite 1, you get it in Smite 2. So.
Sweet. We've got the new supporter store items, which are quips. Talked about those on the Monday show. General, we've got God Builder here with lots of info on how you can set up your custom builds and search through community builds.
Number one below asking for more skins. All right, I'll let him know.
Yeah, and I'm intimately familiar with this now because I've been in the
process.
What
the fuck is a quip? It's like a emote that's just an audio
who's been using it. What are your thoughts?
So you could kill
really
somebody
cool.
and then play like
a
wah,
I can go into. I had to actually stop myself if I wanted to get through all the guns because I started I was like, okay, well here's some situational items and here's where you'd want to build them, and I was putting like tips of like, oh maybe you should like consider like for example, if you're like Agni and you want or like Anubis, if your lane matchup has someone that can immediately interrupt your breath, you might not actually want to start your breath, right?
That's true, yeah.
So like the level order, having extra detail, you could do so much stuff with it. It's really cool. Awesome. I had to stop myself intentionally from doing all that stuff. Though.
Good, nice. Good. I'm glad that you're liking it so far. Now that you're actually like into using it, you know.
I want
this is kind of version 1.
This is the quip I want. I
want to do. One of the features that did not make it into builds that we had mentioned.
Sound where I'm hiding in a bush and I can make that noise.
A build,
right?
So that you can like make a copy of a build and then edit it. We did not get that in. That should be in OB9 probably. Right. Also for OB9 will be like hopefully integration with auto build. So this is for people that do open the store and then pick a build and build themselves.
Yeah, it must have done that beat, bro.
It does also work in the console store. We didn't mention that, but it does have controller support. So
nice.
So yeah, if you're a console controller user, you can also make use of this stuff.
Awesome. Another thing that we did not talk about on our Monday show, but is in OB8, we now have VXG support for select skins that have VXGs.
Yeah, long time coming. I think we have been saying for a while, it's coming, and we finally got to them. We just needed to build out the tech to support VXGs. So any skin that was built with a VXG in mind will just have a VXG.
Yes.
Including like Nova Hex Amaterasu is a skin that's new to Smite 2, right? It's not like a cross-gen skin. And we designed that skin from the start to have a VXG.
Yes.
We just had no way for you to access it. So now if you own that skin, it's just going to be better. And that's cool, right? So
that is cool.
Yeah, VXG on all of these skins.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet. I'm not sure. I was talking to Kellen yesterday, and I think he said that the base canon Neath and Heaven's Rave Zeus might only have one of their 3 musics, but I don't know if he said he was going to go back and add them. I'm not sure if it made it for OB8.
I talked to him this morning. It isn't for OB8.
Okay,
so
sweet.
It should be Smite 1 parody. So you can shuffle through those tracks and, jam out if somebody else has another kind of EDM skin.
Sweet. So I think this is a cool addition and very excited for people to be able to use some VXGs.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right, let's move on to game modes and let's talk about Conquest because there are a little bit of changes from the last time that we talked with you all on Monday about some of the Conquest changes. So we'd still have the fire brands, and they still spawn at 3 minutes. They still spawn 2 of the fire embers each. But we are making a change, Pon. So fire embers in live right now grant 2 strength and 2 intelligence, we're going to be decreasing that to 1 strength, 1 intelligence per ember you pick up.
Yeah, we added a lot more of them into the map, and we were like, well, let's see how big of an advantage people can get off that. And it was just too many free stats when it went one-sided on one team. So we're just reducing that so that you still want to go fight over them, you still want to go try and grab them, you can still build pretty good advantage, but it is permanent stats for the rest of the game.
Yes.
So we're just limiting the top end potential of that by reducing the amount. Yep. And you'll see a very similar note when we go to Totem of Coup.
Yep, right underneath. Oh, sorry, go ahead,
I was just going to say, if you ever find yourself in a match with Travis, he will be trying to get these on cooldown, so just be ready for him with the counter gang.
Look out for Royale with cheese, you know?
there are some people on our playtest who will, like, they will absolutely die before they let, like, even the gold pickup in mid lane.
Yep.
There are some people who are like, doesn't matter how the rest of this game goes. If you
getting
ever get that, it is a personal insult.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I oddly find myself prioritizing that when I'm like, oh no, I got to be there when that spawns.
Or you at least poke them to stop them.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little basic attack.
Or Agni gas cloud it and be like, nope, no one's getting this.
In here. All right, Pon, you mentioned it, but Totem of Coup, that change is still going to be going through to where the minion buff is going away, but players are going to be able to get a cooldown rate buff.
Yes.
But that is going down from 2 cooldown rate per totem kill to 1 cooldown rate.
Yeah, we were just seeing it stack up too intensely. If you were winning it, you could easily get 20 CDR rate pretty easily. That's a lot of value, and that was just too much value, so we're reducing it.
Cool. Another jungle change in Conquest that we have not talked about, we're making a change to the way jungle timers work.
Yes.
Basically, we're bringing them to Smite 1 parity to how they interact with you in terms of if you have visibility when a camp is slain and you get that information.
Yo, Ninja,
Yeah,
thank you for the
we
prime.
don't necessarily want players
Big
to have
changes?
to
Not
do
yet.
things like,
They will
if
be
you
getting
kill
to
a
some big
camp,
changes,
start
but
a
Any
little
big
timer next to
changes
your
announced
computer or
so
type it into
far?
the chat because we just wanna
basically
give
they're
that
just talking
information
about
that's
balancing
available.
some of the
That's just
stuff
more
that they
accessible.
launched
But
with
if you don't see
Pat
it, if you don't know
PTS
when it falls down,
for
getting that
Monday.
perfect information gives
Some
you an
adjustments to
insight
certain
into
things so far, but
what
nothing
the
big
opposing
yet.
jungle, what the enemy team is prioritizing, whether or not you should stick around for the next 5 seconds because it's about to come up, that you didn't really earn. And so we're now removing that vision. So if you want to know the timer of a camp, you need to be there or have visibility on it when it's slain.
We talked a little bit about wind sprites. We are just going to be decreasing the amount of wind sprites that are.
Sorry,
throughout
Sandstorm.
the
They
Conquest
actually
map.
told us that this.
There's dev
they actually
commentary
told
about
us
the
that
wind
this
sprites, but
Titan talk
essentially,
is actually
they were
taking the
probably too
pacing of One
prevalent
Piece,
into
so
game warping
it's
for
take
like our first pass on them.
3, 4,
Reducing them
5
as a first step of
centuries-ish.
just making them less impactful in the game. They're still going to spice up gameplay, but they're not going to be as strong.
Yeah.
And then we're going to continue looking at them going forward.
Cool. Minions and Gold Fury. So making some slight changes to the minion versus minion time to kill. They're going to take a little bit longer if it's just wave versus wave with no god interference, right?
Yeah, especially when a reinforcing wave came to clear out a tower, they were wiping out the mini wave a bit too fast. So now that's just going to be a bit longer in between them. A lot of that's really to manage minion stacking.
Gives us your expert analysis
giant
on these
death balls
changes.
of minions that suddenly appear that just instantly take all your towers.
Every
down one
change
lane.
so far
But we're
has
gonna keep a close eye on
decreased
this to make
the
sure that doesn't happen. But
PvE
this also gives
potential of the
minions
map.
more time to pressure a tower.
Minions killing each
And then
other
brute minions, we
decreased.
removed the
Decrease the
anti-magic
amount
shield
of
from them.
stats you
they
get
were
off the
too
farm
tanky
and
and
Fire
too frustrating
Giant
to
and
kill,
Totem of Q.
four
So
mages,
far it's
reducing
just
that. You still want to try and push them.
So far it's just decreased the PvE potential of the map.
Mages will have a better time.
pretty
dealing
much
with
it.
now.
The Gold Fury, the Leadership Aura, we've reduced the damage reduction granted to minions and reduced the bonus power granted to minions for that Gold Fury.
Yeah,
Again, decreasing
This
PvE.
again kind of goes to minion lane dynamics and how strong they are to push and how impactful they can be.
basically
when they
nerfing
ball
minions.
up or they get a slight wave imbalance. This just kind of tones that down.
Yeah. This was a deceptively extremely powerful buff.
Yes. It's really easy sometimes to forget that, like, I throw like a cuckoo tornado and the mini wave dies, and so therefore they're not contributing. But when they do get in range, when they do potentially pile up, when you are around them to give them the buff, like, they can just suddenly start to obliterate things.
The Titan is getting a little bit of update, so just increasing the amount of stats for the Titan from tier 2 towers only. So, Pon, talk to us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so this one I believe is specifically because, like, when you kill towers, the Titan gets weaker over time. So this is essentially if there's a lot of tier 2 towers up and you, like, let's say one lane still has 2 of them up and you have pushed one side, that Titan should be more threatening because you really haven't done anything to the other lanes yet.
Yeah.
We talked. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying we had previously, like, I believe, reduced the amount that these gave. And I think that we felt like it just needed to come back up for the tier 2s in particular.
Yeah, and it also mitigates the case where, like, let's say you're winning the game and then you get to late game and then you get one bad team fight where you get wiped.
Yep.
If the enemy team wants to push down a single lane because they haven't really pushed down any lane, this is going to make it harder for them to actually end the game off that push. They'll get a lot of advantage and they'll be able to catch back up, but if you haven't done the work,
this
of
basically
destroying
makes
the
it so
enemy
if
found-
there's,
like,
you know how
structural
sometimes like
foundation yet,
duo
like,
lane
you
doesn't have any
shouldn't probably just
towers, and then you lose a
immediately
fight at
switch the game
fire,
that
and
helps
your
mitigate
the team's
that
able
too.
to just run all the way to
We
that
talked a little bit
duo
about the
lane
team
from
gold
fire
reward changes
all the
in
way
our
across the
Monday
map,
show, but
and then just
one
go to
thing that we
Titan
did
and
not
end.
talk
This means
about
if
that
there
is
are
a
still
little
tier
bit
2
new,
towers,
we're gonna
it's
be
just the
reverting that
Titan's
change
gonna be
that we did
tankier.
to First Blood in the Open Beta 6 update.
Reverted First Blood
So
changes.
First Blood is
W.
going to be back providing 200 gold.
200 gold
up
W.
from
75 men.
Yeah,
nothing.
we have an internal metric about like how much of a goal lead at this time results in you winning the game, and so we saw that like at pretty low gold amounts early in the game, you can have a pretty big swing in your expectation to win the game. Our thought was First Blood might be contributing to that, so that's why we wanted to initially reduce it. We reduced it, and that number really didn't change.
Yeah.
So that indicates that there's other things going on around how an early advantage is being leveraged further into the game.
Well, you
So
remember when
since,
I don't remember if you've been here
since it
during the
didn't really
streams, but when I
move
was
what we
talking
really
about one
wanted
of
to
the main
anyway,
issues in the tank
we
meta,
just wanna make sure that when
aside
you do
from
get
like
that first
pen
blood,
and all the
it
other
feels
stuff
good.
we've already talked about,
And
they changed the
obviously,
gold
you are
spooling
also
changes like
still
4
getting
weeks
golden
ago,
experience
which
for
means
killing
you're
your
earning
enemy
gold at a
right
lower
away.
rate,
Just
which
the
means you're
bonus
getting
is
higher
solid.
level with less gold, which
one
means that
quick,
caters to more base
note
damage, and
for
base
Assault,
damage
meditation
helps.
can now be sold for 0 gold
tanks.
if you want to. Got some
Right?
feedback that
If you're higher
characters like
level,
Vulcan
then
and
you have
Mulan,
gold.
their consumable slot
Then
in
you're
Assault
getting
was
higher
just
base
feeling
damage,
really
which means your
constrained, and at
scaling
some points,
items are
maybe
coming
you
online
wanted to get
slower
rid of
than
that
your base
meditation
damages,
and-
which is
and
going to
move
cater to
maybe some
helping
mods or making
the
sure that
hybrid
you keep
metas
up
because they
Mulan's banner
live
as
and
much as
die
you can.
based
So
on the
that's
amount of
just
base
gonna be a
damage they
change
do.
for Assault. But then we'll move on right along to God Balance, and let's talk about Cupid.
It was
up
like
first.
it was a series of
Aspect
necessary
of Love,
changes.
we're gonna
It
be
just didn't
decreasing the
add up
initial hit
good
damage
once
and
they
the
were done all
explosion damage.
together.
And Share the Love, we're going to be decreasing the base damage. So Cupid performing a little well, so getting a little
That's
bit of a
fair.
tone down.
Cupid's kind of busted, to
one
be
for
fair.
his
That's why I
aspect and
keep
one
playing
for
him.
generic. He's overperforming in both cases, but we
Yes.
had to do different adjustments for the different playstyles.
Yeah, and I'm going to zoom in for you, chat, just in case you have some trouble reading. Sobek up next. So Sobek going to be seeing a shift, going to be kind of buffing the aspect, but base kit Sobek going to be seeing some nerfs. So
That's good.
Yeah.
Aspect Sobek
of
sucks.
Prey, Charge Prey going to be increasing the base damage in the scaling, but base Sobek
Decrease base
Sickening
damage of the
Strike,
all
we're gonna be
by
decreasing that God dot damage,
120,
and
and
then
it's
Lurking in the Water is
probably
gonna be
needed.
decreasing the base damage as
Decrease
Yep,
dot
his
damage.
overall performances, he's very, very good. But we think the aspect has room to come up, especially if we're going to nerf the base part of his kit.
Yamoja going to be seeing a little bit of a buff here. Aspect of Downpour going to be increasing the inner hit damage scaling of Moonstrike, which is the 1B. And then Mending Waters, we're going to be increasing
just
the
aspect
subsequent bounce
Yamoja.
damage from 50 to 65. So
Yep,
this one got a pretty hefty nerf based off of
Yeah,
feedback.
it released really strong.
It released
We
really
nerfed it
str- yeah, it
heavily
released really
immediately,
strong.
and so now we want to find that kind of middle ground.
Yeah.
for
It released really strong,
Uh,
and then
Hercules
they
up next,
nerfed
gonna
it,
be
and nobody
seeing
has
a
played it
buff
since.
Here, mitigate wounds, increasing the protections, and then Excavate going to be increasing the base damage.
Yeah, so
You have to wait
Hercules is
until
kind
you
of a weird
see
case because
the.
while generally people were kind of expecting
Listen,
nerfs for
just
him,
wait until you see
in
all
our
of the
own, like,
changes
just seeing the
before
stats
you
across all
think
forms
about
of
whether
play,
the god
he's not
changes
doing
are
particularly
bad.
well. And we think the
Because
frustration for him mostly comes from when he's that
it's hard to
bruiser
explain,
jungle
but
role, or
with
there's
item
that
changes,
bruiser kind
it's
of
going
role
to
lead.
make.
So we wanted to focus our buff more.
Item
on
changes are gonna
making it so
indirectly
when you are
nerf some
playing
of
that more
these
tanky
gods.
style of Hercules, you can be more successful. That's why we're addressing the.
I just can't really
protections
talk about it.
here, increasing
I'll
that
just-
overall
I'll
and giving
explain
you
it
more
after.
scaling for it. So when you are playing that tank Hercules,
Some
it's
of
really
these
focused
nerf
on
on
just disruption.
items that
You're
they're
just
gonna
be
get to are
significantly
going to
better
affect
there.
some
And a slight
gods.
adjustment to excavate for that base damage increase.
On her, up next, going to be seeing a buff here. Impale, going to be increasing the damage scaling and decreasing the cooldown. And then Disperse, going to be increasing the base damage.
Yep, he just could use some buffs. He's getting some
He
buffs.
could use a little bit of love, for sure. Donzaburo up next. Another carry going to be seeing a buff here. Neath also on the list as well. A little bit of a spoiler. But for Donzaburo,
Why are they
Luring
buffing
Spirits
her?
are gonna
Just
be
wait.
increasing the heal per tick. And
Just
then
wait.
Tanuki Trickery, we're going to be increasing that base damage gained if you're attacking out of the lead.
I did remember something for Hercules as well. An additional reason is we are doing a lot of protection adjustments as well.
We haven't
Yeah.
gotten to it, but
Yes.
if you pulled up patch notes and scroll towards the bottom in chat, you might see a lot of
Yes.
stuff there.
And
They're
because
adjusting
Herc was
protections,
already
obviously,
before,
on items.
We wanted to compensate for that a little
So
bit.
if
as
they're
well. So that's an
adjusting
additional reason for
protections
why
on
Hercules changed.
items, they don't
going
need
down
the
the
nerf
burrow,
that they gave to Hercules,
wanna
like
make sure
or they don't
that,
need the nerf that they gave to Hercules like 6
he
weeks
just could
ago,
use
where
a
they
little bit of
nerfed
love, give him
his
a bit more sustain,
base
give him a bit more
protections on his
damage coming
3.
out of the Tanuki trickery.
Right,
We think
so
that's
if
also, like,
you
a cool
nerf the base
gameplay thing
protections
he
on
has
his 3 and then also
encourage him
nerf
to be
protection
aggressive
on
after using
items,
that ability.
then
Just make
he
sure that
can't be
finishes
played
well.
in solo at all. He would just only
Neat
be able
up
to be played in
next,
jungle, and
in
we
terms
want him
of
to be able to be
gods,
played in those roles.
Backflip,
So
is going to be seeing a buff here, going to be
base
increasing
damage
the
of
base
the
damage
3,
and decreasing the
the
cooldown.
cooldown.
Yep, pretty straightforward. Just underperforming a little bit. We wanted to give her a little bit of love.
5 damage
and you also
early.
notice that we are doing a lot of kind of buffs on this patch as well.
Yeah.
Because we are doing so many item changes and we're shifting a whole bunch of stuff around, we wanted to, rather than just preemptively nerf a whole bunch of things that might not be relevant going forward, we wanted to just look at characters who had been consistently underperforming across a wide array of things and bring them up a little bit.
I actually don't think Neef.
So that's
Here's
why
my
this
issue.
patch
I
is
actually
probably
don't think
different on the
Neef
God balance.
deserves
We
a
mentioned
buff.
it
I just
on
don't think people
Monday
play her
that
correctly.
the balance for gods would be a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
It's because
Neef
we're
played at
shifting
a high
games so
level,
heavily
one
with our
shots
item pass,
everybody all the time.
we want just the we
But
want to
the
target
issue
things that we
is
feel like
she
we're
doesn't
gonna be
perform
genetically
that
good
way
for
in a
this
lot of
patch
the games that you
wouldn't
guys
disrupt
see.
the feedback we're
A
gonna
lot of you
have
guys are
on
experienced
Correct.
players. A
Yes,
lot of people
Neat
don't play
is
her
our
well.
last god change for the patch. We
I
just have
agree.
a
She
small
feels
note
great.
about
I agree.
adding
I've been saying this
aspect.
for months,
We'll be
that
releasing
she feels
April
great.
28th. That's the aspect of combustion, so you can look forward to that. You know,
Yeah.
igniting
Granted,
enemies.
don't keep in
One
mind,
change
it's
here,
only
when we talked about it on
25
Monday, it was 8 stacks,
increased
8
damage
stacks
late
of Ignite.
game,
We did
base
decrease that to
25.
5 stacks.
Yes.
It's literally
Yeah,
hitting you for probably like
just players doing a
600,
lot
so it's going to be
internally
hitting you
trying
for
to find the right
570,
balance
or it's
for
going to be
it.
hitting you
He
for
was
instead of
kind of falling
575,
like,
600.
early game was too aggressive, but his late game didn't scale
So
enough,
it's base
we were
damage.
Trying to find the right
That's
amount of,
really
like, how easy is
The
it for
protections on
Declan,
her
thank you for the
went
26
down
months.
instead of upturn. Why would
I
they
think
call it a buff?
I think it's really fun. This is probably going to be my new
Protections on
base
her
way of playing
went down
Oddly because it
instead of
plays
up.
the style I like, which is the I want to weave a few in hands to then burst someone.
Right, yeah.
I didn't think it
it's
said
pretty
that. I thought
sick.
it said it went up.
Next up is item balance, and the first section here is pretty much everything that we covered on Monday.
Yes.
Correct, Fawn?
I don't think there's any major significant changes. There might be some subtle tweaks of balance that might not be on
says
it.
it
Like,
went
for
up.
example, I know that Tierfing...
The numbers went down. Maybe it's
we
a typo.
reduced the strength on it a little
Increased
bit, but gave it
protections
another,
from 5 to
we reduced
25
the
plus
levels of it
15
from 5 to
to
4
10 to
levels.
30
So it looks
plus
like part of that
20.
changes there. But most of this is accurate. We didn't do actually many balance tweaks to the new stuff or the changes we did.
Correct.
Outside of that big list that we have afterwards.
Yes, so I'm going to bring us back to Cam's really quick.
Yes.
And just to kind of give a preface before we go through the rest of kind of like what we call post-PTS balance changes.
Yes.
Basically, a lot of these changes were based off of feedback directly out of flash tests, ambassadors, content creators who got a chance to play with the update. We wanted to just kind of go back to
These
to the
changes
drawing
come
board a little
directly
bit,
from, they should just say it,
revisit
the
update, and
ambassadors
we
just
made a lot of
spamming our
changes
shit
based
off
feedback we got.
cooldown
So
all
Fawn, I'll
night.
give it to you and before
Yep.
we go through all the changes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so there's
Sorry,
two
ambassadors.
kind of goals.
Or sorry, devs.
We got the feedback that we felt like that tanks are still going to be too strong.
Sorry,
we got
devs.
the feedback that bruisers especially are still really, really strong. We've seen builds, especially in live right now, where bruisers are very potent.
Sorry.
So we have two separate goals. The first one is we
Usually I'm
wanna
the voice of
make
reason
sure
being like,
that
everybody chill.
the time to kill for tanks and
gonna get
bruisers
fixed.
goes down from what we were initially going to release the patch as. But we
I
don't
come back, why
want
does Chris look
to make
pained?
squishy versus squishy more intense. So, for
Because
example, we
they're
could just
talking
give
about
a
why
whole
they
bunch of
made
more
these changes, and
things,
I know
right? Or
they've
we could
been
just give a whole
getting
bunch more strength to
fucking
things.
blasted
But that
for
would
this
pretty
meta.
directly affect the squishy versus squishy encounter. Like you're,
And it
you're gonna
almost
be
makes
way
me
burstier
feel
in that
bad.
situation.
It
So
almost makes
instead,
me
we
feel
focus
bad
on
because they are
reducing the amount of
working so
protections items
fucking
gives in
hard
the initial
to make
pass,
this game
just to make
good,
it so that
and
it's
you know
essentially- it's functionally
sometimes
very similar.
when
It's
they're
kind of the
cooking,
equivalent to giving
sometimes
people
you know
proportionally a certain amount of time
they
when facing
lose
those
track
targets,
of
because now they just have less
certain
protections. It
parts
also
of
nerfs a lot
balance,
the protections
you know, that
against
slips away
items,
from
which the
them
bruiser builds,
unintentionally.
work from. But the main focus there was we were worried that tanks and bruisers were going to be too tanky, so we wanted to bring that down. A second separate
Mystical
point,
Mail
which
should
again
kill
is
you, it
related
should
to
just
the
not be
first, but
tanky.
Not the same, is that the bruiser items enable for a lot of stacking of these flat damage effects that then allow for a bruiser to use their base kit damage plus these procs to kill a target. That's something that the protection going down addresses a touch. People dying more quickly means their ability to leverage those items are a little bit less, so it addresses that a little bit. But again, they're still separate points. Yeah. And so we will be looking going forward into OB9 to address that more directly. We are looking also to hotfix potential items earlier. So, for example, we try to get a hotfix in for Shield Splitter. Yeah. We're going to reduce its damage. We're really, really close to Branch. We're really close to releasing OB8. That's just going to wait till OB8. Yeah. But OB8 will ship with that adjustment in as well. So that's an item, for example, that's enabling a whole bunch of flat damage. Yep. We'll be looking at Sunder. We'll be looking at the new items Tierfing and Signet. And expect those maybe not waiting till OB9. We have the capacity to hotfix those more earlier. Yeah. So we're going to keep a very close eye on that particular problem. But this list that we're about to show is really focused on point 1 primarily.
Yes.
Point 1,
Cool.
protections
All right,
on a bunch of items.
And
Point
we'll kinda
2,
talk about the first
flat
3
damage
in
items that
conjunction
tanks
because
utilize
the
to do
change is
damage.
pretty much functional. So we're going to be bringing
Oh,
back
it's so
the piercing
good.
effect for the Executioner.
Oh, it's
Totem
so
Death,
good.
and Demonic Grip.
Yeah, so we previously made it so that you got penetration,
Oh, it's so good.
which meant that you were able to attack someone a whole bunch of times and then take that penetration to another target.
Executioner,
for the
Totem,
carry,
and Demonic
but it
now
also means that
decrease
the tanks that would've been
protections
shredded
like
for
they did in
engaging
Smite 1.
combat
Not just give
aren't
you
actually being
pen, but
shredded,
actually
which
reduce the
means that other
protections of the
people's
person
ability to
you're
take
hitting.
advantage of that is lessened, and we think that why that change was originally, I think,
So
a
it
good goal,
decreases, as an
it actually
example,
does
6%,
mean that when
6%,
you
6%
build
per
these
stack.
items,
Instead of
the
giving you
tanks end up being
24%
still
pen
beneficial,
as
'cause if they
you,
can ever pressure
it
you out,
reduces their
they don't have any lingering
protections
consequence from that. They don't have that
overall
lingering
by
penalty.
24%.
So we think
So
changing
instead
these
of giving
to
you
actually
24%
reduce rather
pen
than
and
just
making
being
you
penetration on
fight
the
through less
target is
protections
actually
on your own,
healthy.
it reduces
also
their
helps curb a
protections,
little bit of
so
the
they
tank
take
and
more
bruiser
damage
meta
from
in general,
everybody.
Just because characters also have a pretty high
should be
amount of
Monday.
base protections and health that this will, or protections and
I agree, I hate
magical
Sunder.
protections. So we think that this change will address some of that feel. And then going into the rest of these changes, it's basically a giant list of protections are just now less efficient.
Protection nerf, protection
so
nerf.
a lot of items are
Tier
losing
2
a certain amount
nerf,
of
protection
protections.
nerf, protection
Some of
nerf,
them got
protection
shifted around,
nerf,
but you can roughly,
circular
if
protection
they
nerf,
basically had a
buckler
pure
nerf,
protection set
Ancile
on them,
protection
they lost 5 to
nerf,
10
berserker
protections
shield
of the tier
protection
3.
nerf,
If they were
breastplate
like, let's
protection
say they were
nerf,
strength
eye
or
presence
physical
protection
they
nerf,
lost
eye of storm
5,
protection
they probably
nerf,
lose
Genji's
10.
protection nerf,
And then in some items
Glad
they
shield
actually shifted
protection
away
nerf,
more of their
Pridwin protection
protections
nerf.
in favor of bolstering health because one, we think that there's a few health build synergies that are kind of cool that we want better ability for players to explore. But it also means that the counter items that we introduce with Soul Reaver and Chinblade are going to be more effective.
Correct. Like I'm scrolling through, and I think Gladiator Shield is.
They are increasing some health on some items since they're
that we did that
decreasing
too, but Gladiator
protections,
Shield
but
was the first one.
that's
So where we
fine.
decrease the physical protections, but increase the health by 25.
Yeah, and yeah, you'll as you go through this, you'll see a lot of small tweaks. Like Helm of Darkness got some more offensive capability for losing 5 of each.
So
but
X,
you'll have
it's
to go
not
through the
about
full
it
list to see all of them.
stacking.
They're pretty minor.
It's a shift
on an
in how the
individual
item works.
basis,
Reducing
but
their
if you are building 3
protections
of these
doesn't
in
have
your
anything to
build,
do with your
you're
innate
now
pen that you
potentially
have in your kit.
10 to 15 protections of each down.
Correct. Yeah.
Which, if you have
So Radiance
150
protection nerf,
protections,
Nemean
you're
protection
now
nerf,
functionally
Hussars,
10%
Leviathans, Magi's, all
penetration shredded.
protection nerfs.
That was kind of like
Reduced
the,
by 10,
that's
reduced
kind of
by
like
5,
the
reduced
benchmark
by 5,
we
reduced
looked
by
at.
5.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's kind of the
overall, you
benchmark
add
we
that
looked
up
at when we
over
were looking
4
at
or
this
5
change
items,
is
you're talking a reduction in almost 30 to 40
It's not really the
protections.
same thing as giving everyone 10 10% penetration, but it's often not far off.
Right.
So this should help damage dealers deal with bruisers and tanks overall. We think tanks are still going to be pure tanks are still going to be really effective. A lot of the items that let support tanks be really good, like Gauntlet of Thieves and Prophetic Cloak, those are really, really efficient, and they're intended to be because they have really long payoffs or they have conditional elements.
No, because the issue even with full tank items is you can buy a full tank item or two
but they won't
and get
be
too much
tanky,
base
and
stats
the
out of
bruisers
it.
Are gonna be, I think,
So
a bit
you'll
more
still be
threatened when they
tanky if
try
you
to
build
dive in
full
and use that
tank
flat
tank.
damage. And then we're gonna watch this really
You
closely
build
to see
full
how much
tank
Minion
tank
addresses
paired with
flat
Spirit
damage
Robe and
items
getting
by,
6%
because
health.
we have added
and,
a lot of
and
instances of that. And there is a
Minion
critical
reflecting
mass
all
that
that
once you add too
damage
many of them,
and new
even if,
Leviathans where you're
splashing
getting
1 or 2
stacking
is
health.
actually
You
feels
get
like
all
pretty good
that,
for
and you're still
gameplay. You
tanky.
can splash a 3rd, a 4th, a 5th.
They do
then
need to
it
nerf
becomes
almost
just
every tank item
well, now I know
protections.
that my base kit and these procs will literally kill a squishy, so it doesn't matter what they do. They're just going to die to my combo now.
Yeah. Speaking of, I've stopped here on Shield Splitter because it's kind of an example of that is coming into OB8.
Decrease strength, decrease
increasing the
protection,
strength just a
decrease
little bit,
per
but
scale
decreasing
level
both
scaling.
of the protections.
Yep.
But that per level scaling has been halved, so it's
Yes.
effectively 50% less per level scaling.
Yeah, so that's 5 times rate is 100 bit less base damage
Yes.
overall. So that's pretty big, especially because it's true damage. So that's the actual number that's going to be reduced by. Those ones are our suggestions from Basters. We agreed because we were already kind of looking at this stuff. Unfortunately we couldn't get into OB7 just because we are so
Like if you think
close to
about a
OB8, so
bruiser
we
where
think
they're
this
buying
weekend.
3 tank
Value
items
out of it.
and you add that
Yes.
up, that's 20
let's
less
see, I'm gonna just
protections.
continue scrolling
That ends up being a
here.
big
But
deal
as Pon said,
because the
pretty much
difference between,
everything
like
in this
I
list
said
is
this earlier, the
losing
difference between
protections.
50
Some
and
items
80
getting
protections
shifter shields
is a
for
lot
losing
bigger of a
more
deal
health.
than the difference between
Shield
150
gun,
and 180,
spectral,
right?
all losing
50 to
protections,
80,
communication.
fighting
Yep.
through that
Just
is a
overall
noticeable
kind of
difference
across the
in
board.
mitigating damage
Void Shield
compared to
and Void Somewhere
150 to
look
180.
interesting. We talked a little
So,
bit about
because
making them more closer to
diminishing
parity.
returns happen on protections,
Void
to where the more you
Shield
build, it starts
was
to get less
under
beneficial as
budgeted
you get
overall.
more.
It was also underperforming when we looked
So
at it.
the 30 or 40
we did a
protections you
little
might
more
have
of,
less by
we
only
did
building
decrease
3
protections,
tank items out of the
decrease health, but I
jungle
also gave
is
it
going to
some
start
strength
to
just
fall
because
off in
it felt like it
the
actually
damage
could use it.
exchange time
So we
to
didn't
kill.
want to just ignore it in this pass, but we
now
did
after
finish
this,
the
as he said,
specifically.
we do need to see a nerf on like shield splitter, sunder damage, and one or two other things, and then I think
things.
I obviously don't know without playing it. I think once they nerf a few of the damage, additive damage.
The hard part about playtesting
kits,
is that we playtest,
I think we're in a
one good game a day,
place.
basically.
I think.
And you guys, like once it goes live, we're playing, 8 games a day, right?
Yeah.
And there's thousands of matches happening a day, right? So it's always hard to know.
No, I don't think they're going to do that because Soul is always going to be intended to buy Executioner if she's building non-aspect. So I don't think they're going to restrict it to magical or physical.
This morning, right? Like support tanks felt really tanky.
Thieves Touch, no. There are still items that are
tanky,
solely
but not,
there for
like,
just base
oppressively
protections.
Tanky, but still dealing good damage, but not oppressive damage, right? We had a raw.
Thieves is still strong. It's still going to be worth being built.
Nailed an ult and
but you're not going to get the additive protections on more of the hybrid items because you're not seeing Thieves out of jungle, right? It's more so the items that are being used by solo laners and junglers that are touched more than the actual Guardian items like the support items.
It feels like it's working together in a good way, in a way that I would say maybe it hasn't recently. So it feels like this is at least a step in the right direction.
It absolutely is a step in the right direction.
A little bit overpowered once you get out there because
I found a build. I found a build I want to try because I was working on going through the builds and I actually found like a build that has a really good break point to trigger Stone and Binding's new effect. But Cersei's Hexstone will count as CC for triggering Stone and Binding's effect, which means on gods that traditionally couldn't have enough CC to do it, they could. I want to go try that build out.
Oh, nice.
But like that's the kind of stuff that like we play games, but like we only have so many times to build. Sometimes we're playing specific roles. The amount of just variety that we get to test internally before you guys all get to play thousands of games instantaneously. That's why we have planned OB9, right? Like we specifically budgeted out OB9. We know that this is a really big game shift. We know that we're doing a lot of really big stuff with items. So we want to make sure that we have that time set aside to know.
Like I don't think the nerfs look like they are enough to where like tanks are just screwed now, right?
Yeah,
because it's only 5 protections on this, 10 protections on that. I don't think it's I don't think it's nerfed enough to where tanks are just destroyed. I think it's a small step
goes live,
without overreacting.
You could probably expect some hot fixes as we start to get more data.
Like I said, we nerf Shield Splitter, we nerf Sunder, and we nerf like
just an OB9.
something else.
Wait a full 2 weeks after Monday.
I think it's okay.
Changes. We're definitely going to be looking to hot fix and get some more changes out to you all.
Yeah. I might actually need a paper towel. It's hot in here.
It always gets so hot in here. Yeah.
Do you mind if you excuse me just for a minute to get?
Go for it, Don. Yeah.
I'll be right back, everyone. It's like warm in
here.
Yeah,
we'll go through the bugs while you're gone, and
okay,
then we'll get back to that.
All right, cool. I'm gonna bring up the
man sweating on his birthday.
Here. So we've got some bug fixes in OB8 as well for gods.
Princess
Bari, her Sacred Bell ability.
On
the
her
warning
base skins,
will now show for all
targeters.
players. We added team coloring effects to Yamoja's River's Rebuke ability wave, just to better differentiate if the ultimate is an ally ultimate or an enemy ultimate. On her, his base and skin targeters have been upgraded. We added particle cleanup improvements for the Hot Stuff Poseidon skin. We updated VFX rendering for the Little Bite Sobek Lurking in the Waters ability and lowered the opacity for non-local players. We fixed an issue with Shadow Howler Hunbat's Fear No Evil, the Rocks material effects. We fixed an issue with the Runic Bomb Thrown projectile material. Ymir's targeters have been updated to have consistent coloring and added some behavior fixes to those as well. For Conquest specifically, we fixed the Naga's offhand missing targets that were too close to her. We fixed the archers shooting their arrows at the base of the structure. Their arrows should now be pointed upwards towards the center of the structure.
Okay.
So just a little bit of a visual change. We fixed Conquest mid lane tier 1 towers, targeting players that leaped next to its walls in the jungle. We also fixed the minion counter, displaying the wrong minion count when standing near an allied structure. For items, we fixed an issue where picking up the Runic Bomb would disable